Hello, and welcome to Trapunto. My name is Jamie. In this video, I will be taking you through some tools and notions that I like for English paper piecing, and they will be split into two categories. Number one is your needs, and number two is your nice to haves. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about the things, in my opinion, that you need for English paper piecing. Well, maybe not my opinion, it is what it is. First and foremost, obviously you need some fabric. These are a couple things that I have chosen for what will be the little ongoing project throughout this intro series. You will need paper shapes. I have several different kinds, so hexagons, triangles, half hexagons, even have ones to make a drunkard's path. You need the paper template to hold your shape, essentially. Next up is thimbles. I prefer the leather thimble. I use a Bohin size small on my middle finger. It fits really well. You can see it's gotten some good use out of it throughout the years. I've probably had this for maybe 2 or 3 years now. It works quite well. There are also, I don't mind this thimble either. This is from Clover, I believe. And this one still allows, this is from Prym. And what I like about this is it still allows your finger to breathe with all the holes that are in here. You can see, but the tip on it is hard. And the dimples are quite deep, which allows for the needle to be caught easier. The only thing that didn't really work for me, and you might be able to see it here, is you can see where I stick my needle when I stitch. So I would get holes in the silicone part because as I'm stitching, the needle would naturally, just with where I push, goes beyond the plastic. So while this is a good thimble, it wasn't good for me. And that's why I like the Bohin, because there is triple layering in here. And you can see where I push the most from. And I don't necessarily have to try to hit a specific spot. I can just push from wherever, essentially. Now, this one has loosened a little bit over the years, even though this is a size small. So I use a little bit of double-sided tape on my finger here just to hold it. I have tried putting it in water to make it shrink back, but it hasn't really worked. Next, of course, you need thread. So I stitch with 50 weight cotton, specifically Aurifil brand. You can tell on Aurifil if it is 50 weight because it has the orange spool. There are other weights that Aurifil does, but 50 weight is orange. You can use this in machine as well. I use 50 weight simply because it is easy to get and it comes in a whole whack load of colors, which is great if you are like me and will match your thread to your fabric, which is not something you have to do. It's a preference. And I find it is more durable to wear and tear versus 80 weight or 100 weight cotton would be. So I like to scrunch and scrunch and scrunch my fabric when I'm sewing it in my hand to try to get the pieces. And if I'm using a delicate weight thread, I find it is more prone to breaking. And that's not great. I have also tried using, this is 80 weight Decobob from Wonderfil. Decobob is polyester. And I also have 100 weight Kimono silk that I have tried. And I do plan to do a video on thread in the future, so stay tuned for that, where I go a little bit more in depth on different threads and different types and pros and cons. Next, you need our needles. So this little pink thing is essentially, I use it as a needle minder just so I don't lose my needles everywhere. I do have a needle book, but I tend to just keep these on my desk when I'm sewing. And this is from Clover. It's one of the little macarons. And the filling in the macaron actually works as a needle sharpener, which is nice, but there's a magnet on the back. So anyway, these needles are John James number 10s with a big eye. You can see they are quite small, but the eye is a pretty decent size. Let me bring that up. So you can see the eye is not the worst. I don't have an issue threading it. I have also tested it with the desktop needle threaders, and it works with 50 weight. So if you do struggle with threading your needle, you can try one of the desktop needle threaders, and they work with that. I like these because they are rigid. They do not bend. And that while they are small, and I know I have small fingers but big hands, it did take a little bit of a learning curve to get used to working with them. But I like that there is less to push through the 4 layers of fabric as I'm working. So that's why I go shorter personally. There are a bunch of other needles that you can use, and I am happy to make a video on needles for English paper piecing and the different kinds. Let me know if you'd like to see that. That said, I have tried these. These are the Tulip Appliqué needles number 10 Big Eye. And I tried these because these are the needles that Tula Pink swears by, and she is big into EPP. As you can see, they are a fair amount, well, not, yeah, okay. They're a fair amount longer. Try to get my fingers out of the way here. We can see the difference in length. So you get about maybe another 1/4 inch of needle. And the eye is comparative as well to the John James eyes. Hopefully you can see that there. The thing I did not like about the applique needles, and again, this is just my personal preference, is they are flexible. They bend. And when I am stitching, I don't like that sensation in my hand. I know Tula likes them, she has said, because they bend and are flexible. And basically, instead of breaking, they will bend. If you prefer a flexible needle, or if you have struggled with more rigid needles, I would recommend these. Tulip is a fantastic brand. So there's an option out there. They also come in these cute little test tubes, which is very fun. But yeah, quilting, these are applique needles, number 10 Big Eye from Tulip. Of course, you're going to need some scissors. So these are, you might start noticing a trend. These are Tula's number 6, I believe, straight edge, or 4-inch straight edge. I will use these when I'm cutting through lots of layers of fabric, and you will see that in one of the next videos, I think, when I show you how I like to cut my fabric for English paper piecing. They got a good weight to them. I personally added these. These are just little silicone O-rings to give me better grip and a little bit more comfort when I'm doing a fair amount of cutting just on my thumb and finger here. But yeah, very nice scissors. And lastly, I am a glue baster, so I need a glue pen. My brand, and you can see it's seen better days, but this is a Fons and Porter. You can kind of just make it out here. Fons and Porter. There is also the Sue Daly, and Soline has a pen as well. So it's just a twist up with a little glue in here. It's about a 1/4 inch, which is nice when we get into basting. It's also water soluble, so I know this is looking a little gunky and whatever. It doesn't bother me personally, but the nice thing is I can just take it to a sink and give it a, well, once I finish the glue, take it put it under the water, and all this is going to wash away and it's going to look like new. Same with the inside of the cap. It can get a little in there, but that's okay. It's all water soluble. And the nice thing is too, so all the pens take, this is a Soline refill. They all take the Soline refills with this, which is great. So yeah, those are my needs for English paper piecing. Give me 1 sec and we'll be back with the nice to haves. Okay, here we are. So these are my nice to haves. These are things that make my English paper piecing life a little easier. But if you're just getting started, there is zero obligation to purchase any of them. I just want to preface by saying that I've been English paper piecing for maybe 4 years. So this has been accumulated over time. I also work in a quilt store, so things kind of come my way. Or I have, I was going to say friends. They are my friends, but they're also enablers who will go, hey, have you seen this new thing? And then I do, and then I need said new thing. I'm sure we've all fallen into that trap. So I know there's a lot here. Let me break it down. And if you have any questions about anything, please comment below and I'll answer your questions as best as I can. So we're going to work our way. There's a few things underneath, as you can see. We'll get to them last. Okay. So let's talk about two things that you'll probably see regularly when it comes to English paper piecing, and that would be acrylic templates. So acrylic templates come in all sorts of kinds and different colors. So these yellow ones are for a project that I have ongoing from Libs Elliott. It's the We Are the Storm. These templates have a quarter seam allowance built in. So when you're cutting your fabric, you don't have to worry about adding a seam, which is great. It's also translucent, or it's transparent, but this is why it's translucent. So you can, of course, see your fabric through when you are cutting. Acrylic templates for me I use them for this project just because there are so many pieces and so many different kinds. And I will also mainly use them when I am fussy cutting. And I do plan to make another video specifically for fussy cutting. So do keep a watch out for that. So these are the Libs Elliott ones. And like, here's the little triangle. So yeah, you can obviously still see your fabric through and decide where you want your print to be. And this one is a little different. It's still acrylic. This one has a 3/8 seam allowance. Let me get this fabric out of the way here. So you can see the difference in thicknesses here from the 3/8 to the 1/4 inch seam. I used to be more of a 1/4 inch person. And for this We Are the Storm project, I do like the 1/4 inch just because there's a lot of pieces intersecting, etc., etc. The 3/8 does give you a little bit more wiggle room. And as you can see, this template also has holes in it. So that's also helpful for fussy cutting and also marking where you want your papers when you're basting to line up. So there's a little bit of help there. And then this one is also nice because it does have the center line marked. Might be a little tough to see there, but there is a center line marked down the middle. So if you were lining up something, a specific print, this flower one isn't very good for that. I do have another one here. So if you're lining up, say, this print, and you want this peacock, again, this is a little bit more for fussy cutting, but just for demo. So if you wanted to make sure that peacock was centered, so you get its little feet in here, and you want its head to be centered, you have the line here to line up where you want that peacock to be. Okay, acrylic templates, done. Oh, not done. I also have this one. So this is a little window. You can see it goes right through. So this is for 1.5 hexagons for another project that I'm working on. And this one does not have the seam allowance added to it. So when I'm cutting my shapes, I have to make sure to remember to add the seam allowance when I'm cutting. But the nice thing, again, is for fussy cutting, is you can kind of look around your fabric and see where you want your shape to be. Say, I want this flower here to be kind of in the middle, and then you can trace around and you're good to go. So these ones they're all handy for their own reasons, which is great. And the second part of that, what I add to the back of my templates, so you can kind of see that it's got this coating on the back, that is this. So this is Grippy from Odif or Odif, however you choose to say that. And it is a non-slip coating that you can put on your templates, and it dries super fast. I find it really helpful because when I'm cutting or laying out my fabric, it's not going to slide on me when I have the grip on the back. You can also use this on your quilting rulers that don't have grip on them. You could use them on, like I have this little guy right here. I could add that to the back of this if I really chose to. So lots of uses for the grippy spray. It's great. So speaking of rulers, when I'm cutting my shapes, I don't use a ruler. We'll get into that in the next, or the video where I'm showing you how I cut my fabric. But I always find having rulers is helpful. This one I use all the time because it's clear, so I can kind of, I can measure things. I can say, okay, so this green flower here is about 1.25 inch, or, the little red one is whatever. I like this one for a lot of different things. And this one, similar reason, it's clear, but this is a quilting ruler, so it has the markings on there that you would expect from a quilting ruler. And it's also rainbow and glittery. Woo! This is from So Whatever. And what else do we have that's fun? So this is an EPP palette from So Tights. And these are good for when you're doing flat back stitching and you have your 2 pieces here and then your flat back stitching. It's just a support to help you hold your pieces because otherwise it's quite awkward. And I will show you why when we get into the stitching video. We'll get into the little bits later. So this is a fussy cutting mirror. And again, this will be shown in my fussy cutting video. This is the Marti Mitchell one. There's a bunch of different ones out there. All it literally is, and you'll see my setup, is 2 mirrors that are kind of dusty, but that's okay. And so you use them for when you're making kaleidoscope blocks, or you want to use a certain design in fussy cutting for English paper piecing and you want to get like the circle view or whatever. I'll go into depth more with this one, so keep an eye out for that. And then I have a whole bunch of scissors. So again, these are from Tula Pink. These are her, I think these are the 6-inch serrated or the 4-inch. Where's my little guy? I don't know what size these are. Anyway, these are serrated. So you can see on the bottom blade, there are little teeth. And I like using these when I'm cutting one layer of fabric because it really grips onto the fabric and I know it's not going to go anywhere when I'm cutting them. Then I also have these little super pointy ones. You can use these as thread snips. I tend to use them when I am basting curves because you need to clip the curves and these just really get in there nicely. And then I have these little snips, and they are curved. The blade is curved. So when I cut my thread sticking up, the blade does not touch my project, so I don't have to worry about it cutting my project. That's why I like those guys. Now, all these little guys, so these are sew tights. And what these are magnets that you can stick onto your pieces as you're stitching. You will see me use these when I'm stitching. So there's the top purple part and the back, and they just slide apart into two pieces. So the one side goes on one piece and the other side goes on one piece, and it just holds it together. And I find that super helpful for the ergonomics and comfort when I'm stitching. There are different sizes. So there's the purple, the teal, which is a little larger, as you can see. And these ones are about the same size as the purples. It's just these white stars and the diamonds have lighter strength magnets. So for anyone with mobility issues or hand issues, they can be a little better if you struggle to separate the two sides. And then who doesn't need a Libs Elliot skull and a Tula pink heart when they are working on projects? And then I also have a needle minder that I use when I am doing other stitching work. Another good tool to have if you don't have sew tights, because they can be a little expensive, is Wonder Clips. So these are some off-brand Wonder Clips that are glittery, which obviously meant I had to buy them. And you can use these to hold your pieces together as you're stitching, or hold your pieces in a way to organize them so you know what you're doing. I just kind of clip them in here just for safekeeping. And this little baggie just has the backs of all the pieces in there because I found they don't like to. The purple ones will stick, but everyone else kind of doesn't really like to stick to the metal plates that's in here. So I made a little bag and they're all in there. Keep them nice and safe. Now, these fun things. So this is I think it's just called a keeper. It's from Sue Daly. So it has my glue pen. It has a little notch for my glue pen. And the nice thing is I can keep the lid in here, and then I can just take the stick out or like the pen out when I'm working, and when I'm, whatever, I can just pop it in there and back, forth, back, forth. It has a little metal rod to hold my thread spool. So my thread is right here. And then it also has a little needle minder, so I can keep my needle right here. And oftentimes I will keep my thimble right on top of my glue so I don't lose it. So that's a keeper. It's from Sue Daly. It's nice to just have it on your desk's little sewing station, and all your stuff is right there. And now these guys are thread conditioner. These are from 3 different brands. I don't know if Trailhead is still doing gloss. I haven't seen it on their website. So I'm sorry if you can't get it anymore. They are a Canadian brand out of Ontario. And this is the Berries scent. All it is beeswax mixed with some scented oil. And so you can see I've been using this one a fair amount. And So Fine, I've had for quite some time. They were just acquired by Soak. And so if you're looking for some, I know they still have some flavors out there. I don't know if they still have Harvest Moon, but again, it's just beeswax with oil, with some scented oil in there, and also Canadian product, which is nice. And then this one is from Ponderosa. I know she is still around. She's in Oregon, I believe. And this is the creamsicle blend, which I've had for some time. I believe she's changed her packaging, but again, it's just beeswax with some nice fun scents. I use thread gloss when I am stitching EPP because I find it does help with hand fatigue, and it helps the thread come through my fabric easier. So anything to make it a little easier, anything to have a fun little scent, why not? Now these guys are, we have a mix here. So these are marking pens. This is almost what I use exclusively to mark my English paper piecing. So this is the Soline Air Erase pen. The ink is purple. And depending on how humid your workspace is, the lines will go away anywhere from like 12 to maybe 48 hours. So depending what you're doing, you need to work pretty quick. But when I'm tracing my shapes before I cut them out, this is what I use. You can also use a water-soluble pen. Soline makes a water-soluble pen. I have the Mark Be Gone. This ink is blue and it is fine tip, which is nice. And it dabs away with a damp cloth, or it'll go away when you wash your project. However, I would caution leaving it on your fabric for a long time because the lines may stay. So do test on anything important before you use. And this is a new one to me. So this is Jelly Roll. This is a glitter pen. And if you want to use one like this, please make sure that it has the little shooting star on the end after the brand or on the cap. These pens are acid-free. And the thing that I like about these pens, and I'll show you once we get to the fabric cutting video, is no matter the color, you can see the glitter marking on it. I don't know how well it washes out, but if you're just using it to trace your lines, it's really not that big of a deal. I would also say the same for friction. However, please don't use friction for marking any lines that will show on your top. Friction pens are not made for fabric. They are made for paper, specifically notebooks that will not be exposed to sunlight. So friction pens will come back in the cold and the ink will degrade in UV light over time, turning brown. So when it erases with the heat, the gel is still on your fabric. It's just gone transparent with the heat. So please, 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 please be very careful how and where you use your friction pens. We do not sell them here for that reason, and I cannot recommend them for certain applications because I have heard really terrible things of what happens with friction pens. So please tread carefully with friction pens. That said, more positive, fun things now. So when I'm using my acrylic templates, I have a little 18 millimeter Olfa rotary cutter. It's just a little guy, but it's great to cut with the templates. Good. I'll talk about this one. So I haven't used this a whole bunch. However, it's been quite handy when it comes to if I have hand fatigue from pushing my seam allowance up when I'm basting. So this is just like a seam pusher. So it sort of acts as your finger to push your seams up. We'll give it a go when we're in the basting part of this project. And this is a Hera marker from Clover. This is the small one. I like using this to not mark my fabric, but if I have a sharp point on a shape, I like running it along the edge of my paper to sort of crease the fabric, and then I get a nice fold when I am glue basting. We'll show you this again when it comes to the glue basting. And this is my off-brand Purple Fang. It is the exact same thing, essentially. It's just teal. And I use this to get my papers out. I use this side specifically. You can see it on the reel that I have posted on our YouTube and our Instagram. And so I will just use this to run along the edges, the seams, and then I pop my paper out. All right, 2 things left for nice to haves. So I have a rotating cutting mat. This is the Caterpillar swivel mat. The nice thing about this is, one, it rotates and it has ball bearings, so it's quite smooth. And when you apply pressure, it doesn't move as much. So when I'm cutting, it kind of freezes itself in place, which is nice. The other nice thing that I really like about this is the mat is translucent and it also comes out. So this mat, as you can tell, has seen its fair share of cutting, but you can replace the mats, which is nice. I don't have to replace the whole thing. I can just replace the mat, and it works with what I have under here, which is a Caterpillar Glow table. And so if I'm doing fussy cutting, I probably would take this cutting mat off because there's a second cutting mat here that came with the light table. And when I turn it on, I can still see through whatever I'm cutting. So again, I'll use this little fabric, which is not great for showing fussy cutting, but bear with me. So if I'm fussy cutting something, I can really see the fabric through, and hopefully you can see it okay on your end as well, despite the lighting. But it just helps the light come through for fussy cutting or tracing or whatever you're doing. And yeah, the last thing is my light table. So this is good for applique, tracing your shapes. It's good for English paper piecing. Again, when you are looking to, and this cutting mat fully comes away, so you can really see the fabric through if you're looking to fussy cut on here. And yeah, it's great. I don't use it as much as I should, to be honest, but it's a great tool. And as you can see, there's 3 different brightnesses. And yeah, it's great. So those are all my tools and notions. As I hit my camera for English paper piecing, the nice to have and the needs. And bear with me as we get to the next video where I show you how I like to cut my fabric for English paper piecing. See you next time.